You close the back door. That little click of the latch, and in your head, you're already done. Feeder's full, job's done, on to the next thing. But here's what's actually happening on the other side of that door. The second you're gone, something shifts in the yard. Not chaos, not this big exhale of relief. Something quieter than that, more deliberate, because a dozen pairs of eyes were already tracking that door before you even reached for the handle. And now they're doing something that has nothing to do with hunger. It has everything to do with you. You think you just fed some birds, but what you actually did was submit a data point, and right now, while you're back in your kitchen, they're reviewing it. Here's something that takes a moment to actually sink in. Birds don't experience your visit the way you think they do. You see yourself as the helper, the one doing something kind for the little creatures in your yard. But from inside that small, hyper-alert mind from their side of things, you are not a person, you're a profile. A feature set, a file that gets updated every single time you walk outside. Researchers studying avian cognition have found that a lot of common backyard species, crows, jays, even regular sparrows, can recognize individual human faces with a precision that honestly feels a little unsettling the first time you hear it. They're not seeing a human. They're seeing you, your face specifically, your gait, the blue jacket you had on last Tuesday, the difference between how you move when you're rushing versus when you're relaxed. All of that gets processed through a part of the avian brain called the hyperpallium, and in some species, it's sharper than the facial recognition ability of certain primates. Let that sit for a second. But here's the part people really don't talk about. It's not just your face they're filing away. It's something closer to your intent. Every time you've come out to that feeder, they haven't just logged "human was here." They've logged "this human moved at this pace with this kind of energy and left without anything bad happening." They are building a psychological profile of you, a real one, and you never signed up for any of it. Now, here's the part that I think catches most people off guard. Think about your own routine for a second. When do you actually fill the feeder? Maybe it's mornings. Maybe it's just whenever you happen to remember. It probably feels pretty loose, casual, no real system to it. Something you do when you think of it. The birds have your schedule memorized better than you do. Ornithologists studying feeder behavior have documented something called predictive arrival, where birds start gathering you the feeder before you've even opened the back door. They're not reacting to the sound of the latch. They're reacting to a pattern, your pattern. Weeks of your comings and goings, mapped and internalized, until they can anticipate your movements, almost the way you'd anticipate a traffic light. They just know you're coming. And here's where it gets a little uncomfortable, honestly. When you're 5 minutes late, they notice. There's actual research showing measurable agitation in resident bird populations when an expected feeding doesn't happen on time. More calls, more short restless flights, this kind of low-level unease that spreads through the group. They're not just waiting around, they're expecting. And your absence isn't neutral to them. It's a disruption to a schedule they built around you. So look at this honestly for a second. Who's actually running this routine? You go out there every morning because it's become a habit. This quiet little pull you barely even notice anymore. But that pull didn't come from nowhere. The birds created it. Slowly, gently, over weeks, they trained you to show up. And it never once felt like training. Here's something else happening that most people completely miss. Your body is already talking to them before you open the door. Birds are incredibly sensitive to the way a body moves through space. A heavy, rushed footstep sounds completely different from a calm, slow one. The tension in your shoulders, the pace of your breathing, whether your movements are sharp or soft, all of that is sending information into the yard before you've done anything. Researchers think birds are essentially reading physical stress cues from human movement, picking up on the difference between a body running on cortisol and one that's actually at ease. On a hard morning, when you're stressed, distracted, moving fast, they hang back. On a slow, quiet morning, they're closer, quicker to land, less jumpy. They've figured out which version of you is safe, and they've quietly built their whole relationship with your yard around that. This is the part people miss. Your backyard isn't just a place birds happen to eat. It's a space they've emotionally calibrated around your presence. You are a variable in their sense of safety. Every single day, without knowing it, you're either reinforcing that feeling or unsettling it, just by how you walk outside. Now flip it around for a second. When you walk back inside, the door clicks shut, you're done. The bird closest to you doesn't just go back to eating. Within seconds, a call goes out, and to you, if you even heard it, it sounds like nothing, just a chirp, background noise. But that chirp is a broadcast. It's carrying something, a coded signal, almost like a review, your reliability, your threat level, where you stand in the local ecosystem right now, today, after this visit. And it doesn't just reach other birds. Squirrels pick it up. Smaller mammals near the tree line adjust. Even certain predators in the area quietly recalibrate based on the ripple that one little sound sends out. You walked away from a bird feeder, but what actually happened is your reputation just got updated across your entire neighborhood's wildlife network. Every creature within earshot knows something slightly different about you than they did 5 minutes ago. And the next time you step outside, that information is already out there. I'm already waiting. Being remembered by one bird means being known by the whole system. That's not a small thing, but here's the part that really lingers once you hear it. The memory doesn't stop with that one bird. It doesn't even stop when that bird is gone. There's a growing body of research showing that birds pass behavioral knowledge between generations, not through instinct, but through something that looks a lot like learned culture. Fledglings watch how their parents react to specific humans. They absorb those associations. This spot is safe. This person is reliable. This yard has a good history. And they carry it forward into their own lives. So the birds in your yard right now, they might already know things about you that you never consciously showed them. Patterns learned from parents who watched you through a winter you've probably half forgotten. A feeding spot that's been marked in their collective awareness since long before you ever started paying attention to them. You're not just part of this season. For some of these birds, you're part of something longer. A chapter and a behavioral record that stretches back years. And here's what gets me. You could move. You could stop filling the feeder tomorrow. But for a generation or two, the birds in that yard would still carry some trace of you. Not a memory exactly, but something like one. A tendency to linger near a certain post. A low-level sense that this place has been safe before without quite knowing why. So sit with that for a second. This morning, maybe you were half asleep, maybe just going through the motions. You stepped outside and you were seen. Not glanced at, not noticed in passing. Seen the way a creature sees something it genuinely needs to understand. Filed, processed, remembered, shared. There's a version of this where filling a bird feeder is just a small habit. A few seeds, a quiet morning, nothing more. But then there's the version that's actually true, where that simple, ordinary thing quietly wove you into a living network that's been watching and remembering you far longer than you ever realized. You thought you were the one doing something for them, but maybe they've been doing something for you too. Giving you a place in a world that usually just moves on without noticing. Keeping a record of your presence, even after the door closes, even after you've gone back to your morning. The latch clicks, you're inside. But in the yard, the record stays open.